just make you laugh. Okay.
Hi everybody, welcome back.
How you doing? 5.6, the law of cosines.
Okay, so last time we did law of sines, now we're ready for law of cosines. You knew it was coming.
It was only a few minutes ago for us, hopefully for you too. All right, here we go. Law of cosines is going to work really well when the law of sines doesn't. Law of sines worked when we had angle, angle, side,
Yep.
or angle, side, angle, or the magic pair.
The magic hair.
So if we're not able to find an angle and the side across from it, what if we're given side, 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 or side, angle, side?
We run away crying. No. Then we
Okay.
use the other rule.
We will mention once again that angle, angle, or angle, side, side, or side, side, angle, however you like to write it, is not in this right now. That is a whole nother lesson involving all kinds of interesting things, and we'll save that for later.
We will.
Okay?
This is just the nitty gritty of what you need.
All right, so what is the law of cosines? Well, we could prove this. It wouldn't take too terribly long, but in the interest of saving us some time for right now, we're going to go ahead and just say here it is. Have fun with it. It sort of looks like the Pythagorean theorem to start with, except for all the letters are mixed up. We have a squared equals b squared plus c squared. But then we're going to subtract some stuff. We're going to subtract 2bc. And what I want you to notice right now is pattern recognition here. Our b and c are both here, so we have b and c there. And our angle A is what we took the cosine of, and that is the same as a squared over here. Which means we can actually do this for non-right triangles starting with any side we want. So just for fun, we could have written this as b squared equaled a squared plus c squared minus what do you think?
2ac.
2ac, because both of those are there. But
And
then
we
the
do
cosine of
b.
angle b.
Okay.
Or we could have started with c squared,
So that's a squared plus b squared,
and that looks just like the Pythagorean theorem, doesn't it?
right? Minus 2ab. And then we have the cosine of the angle c.
And just for fun, if that was the Pythagorean theorem, angle c would be at 90 degrees. And what's the cosine of 90 degrees?
0.
0. So all that goes away and the Pythagorean theorem still holds.
Gotcha.
All right, just to be obnoxious, it could look like this.
Mine is 2-star heart.
2 star times heart. And the cosine of
It must be capital
whatever a
smiley
capital
face.
happy face looks like.
A bigger happy face.
Bigger one.
Very
That
nice.
one would be smaller. Okay, I mean that's what it is. It's patterns.
Okay.
Okay, so once you get the pattern, you just need to use the formula. Your job is going to be either solve for a side, which means you're going to plug all this wonderful stuff into your calculator and take the square root of it,
Okay.
or you're going to solve for an angle,
Okay.
which means you've got to rearrange this whole mess and solve for cosine of b.
And it should
then-
be noted, I have interrupted.
Go ahead.
That once you start with the law of sines, you
Yes.
should finish with the law of sines.
There are lots of reasons, we're not going to get into them, but
Yep.
if you start with law of cosines, please finish the problem with the law of cosines. Do not bounce back and forth between sines and cosine laws. Trust
Until
us.
after the next video.
If you watch the next video, we'll explain some other things then, but for now, please just trust us. We know what we're talking about. You'll make less mistakes this way.
Great.
All right, so let's take care of this first problem here. We have a triangle WXY, which, like I said, all my triangles look exactly alike. WXY.
Okay. W is 50 degrees.
W is 50 degrees.
Little x is 17 centimeters.
17 would be opposite capital X
Okay.
angle.
And little y is 6.2.
6.2. So that is side, angle, side,
Yes, it is.
which screams to me
law of cosines.
Okay? So we have to kind of decide what we want to solve for first. Well, in the law of sines, we had the magic pair.
Right?
Well, in the law of cosines, we basically have the same idea. We have to have the angle here and this little angle. We just don't have to know both of them.
Okay.
So if we're only given a single angle of 50 degrees, we
We should
probably
probably
want to
start
solve
with
for
W.
W first.
Okay. So that would be w squared first.
So we're going to start with W squared.
Okay.
We'll equal the other two sides squared.
So 6.2 squared
6.2 squared
plus
plus
17 squared
17 squared
minus 2
Minus-
times 6.2 times 17.
times 17.
And then cosine of our angle,
And then cosine of angle W, which in this case is
50 degrees.
50 degrees.
Hey, those are all numbers, Mr. Lucky.
All numbers.
So we can just type them all into our calculator.
Type that in, type away, and knock yourself out. And what do you do with them once you find the answer?
You take the square root.
You take the square root of that wonderful mess.
So you're going to be taking the square root of 191.94 blah, 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 blah.
Can we just type it all in at once?
Sure.
Square root 6.2
Squared
squared
plus 17
plus
squared
17 squared
minus 2 times 6.2
6.2
times 17
times 17
cosine
times, just for fun, cosine
50.
50. Make sure you're in degrees. I'm still in degrees.
Enter.
Into your square root. And we have 13.8454, blah, blah, blah.
Yes, we do.
So W is approximately 13.854. But is
Centimeters.
W equal to that exactly?
Centimeters. Not quite.
Not quite. We got to
So
use
we
all
should-
those other things.
We should save that.
We should save it. What letter would you like to use?
I'd like to use W.
So once again, we hit stow,
W.
alpha.
It's the
Come
minus.
on. Give me back. Why does it hit it twice? I don't know.
You push it too
Alpha
hard.
W.
Minus.
It's the minus sign. Thank you. I can't read them. Enter. There we go.
Okay, so it's there.
So W has been saved. We'll come back to that later.
Okay. Are we done?
Well, we haven't solved our triangle yet
Oh,
because
right.
we need to find the other two angles.
Okay.
How are we going to do that?
Well, you said on law of cosines we could use it for an angle.
So we either need to solve for X or for Y. Does it matter?
It does not matter. Let's pick Y.
Let's pick Y. Okay. So let's take care of, we're solving for Y. Now, if we're going to solve for Y, we won't know the cosine of Y because we don't know what Y is yet.
Okay.
But we do know the side opposite, so that's what we're going to start
So
with.
we have to start with 6.2 squared.
We're going to start with 6.2 squared. Now, what I'm going to do is erase this to give myself some room.
Okay.
And if you want it back up there, you can rewind. Okay. That was easier than redrawing my triangle. Okay, so we have 6.2 squared
Okay.
equals
The other two sides.
the other two sides, which was 17 squared. Now, I'm going to
Plus-
write W squared
But we know that because it's saved. So
because
it's
it's
a
safe.
number.
It's really that 13 point whatever it was, 854,
Okay.
minus
2 times 17
2 times 17
times W.
times W again, because we're just going to type W into our calculator, cosine of
Y,
Y,
which we don't know.
which we're trying to solve for.
Okay.
So how do I go about solving for this? Well, I'm going to basically work this out as much algebraically as I can and use my calculator all at once.
Okay.
And so I need to get cosine of Y by itself first. But cosine is multiplied by all this mess.
Okay.
So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of 17 squared and plus W squared by doing
Subtraction.
what? Subtraction. So I'm going to have 6.2 squared minus 17 squared and minus W squared.
Okay.
And remember, W is a number.
Okay.
And all that's going to equal negative 2 times 17 times W,
Which is a number.
which is a number, times the cosine of Y.
So negative 217W is just like the coefficient.
Yeah, that's just
So
a
we
number.
could just divide.
So we'll divide both sides by negative 217W.
Okay.
All right, so we have 6.2 squared minus 17 squared minus W squared divided by negative 2 times 17 times W
Equals
and
the
equals
cosine
the
of Y.
cosine of Y.
Okay.
Now I have the cosine of Y by itself. How do I remove cosine?
Well, we're looking for an angle, so we must be doing an inverse.
Inverse. So we're going to take the inverse of both sides and we will have a result of cosine inverse of
All that.
all that mess. 6.2 squared minus 17 squared minus W squared all over negative 2 times 17 times W.
Because W is just a number.
And
Okay.
there is our work we have shown.
Now I'm guessing you want us to type all that in our calculator at once.
Let's try it,
Okay.
shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay. So,
Clear.
clear. All right. Clean stream to Goodwill.
Okay.
Cosine inverse is second cosine.
Okay.
Now we have a big fraction. Now what you have to remember when you type in fractions is put a parentheses around the top and the bottom just to be safe, and then that means divide.
Okay.
Actually,
scribble.
Or just scribble it out, whatever else.
So we need an extra parentheses.
Extra parentheses for the numerator.
6.2 squared
6.2 squared
minus 17 squared
minus 17 squared
minus W squared.
minus W. Now W is alpha W,
Alpha minus. Okay.
and
Squared.
I'm squaring it. Remember, W's been saved.
Parentheses.
I'm going to close the parentheses there and,
divided by. What do you have?
hold on, I got too many parentheses.
Well, that's okay. Just add another one later.
I don't want it.
Oh my goodness. Doesn't it make you want to just touch the touch screen and make it go? Okay.
Too bad that doesn't work.
I know. I've tried it.
Okay, divided by,
Okay. Another
open a parentheses for the denominator,
Negative 2
negative 2
times 17
times 17
times W.
times alpha W.
Close the parentheses.
Close the parentheses for the bottom of the fraction,
And close for the
and
cosine
close the
inverse.
parentheses for the inverse cosine,
Enter.
and press enter. And as long as you're in degree mode, you will get a degree measurement for Y to be approximately
20.049
20.049
degrees.
degrees. Now, I don't have to do anything with that angle. You could store it if you want to.
Okay.
But it turns out if that's 20.049, whether you save it or not, it's already rounded off. So your third angle is going to be rounded off to the same 3 decimal places.
Okay.
So if we look at our picture now, we have angle Y is 20.049 degrees. Angle W is 50 degrees. So how do
angle
I find
X,
angle
we
X?
just subtract it from 180.
We subtract them both from 180. And what do we get when we do that?
We get 109.952 degrees.
Was it 152?
952, sorry.
9,
5,
5,
2.
2
Degrees.
Yay!
Woohoo!
Okay.
Great.
Wonderful.
Okay,
Piece
so
of
we
cake?
solved the triangle. Not so bad. The algebra over here on finding the angles is a little tricky, so we'll definitely practice that.
Practice, practice, practice.
Okay, cool.
All right.
That's it for law of cosines, huh?
Now, how about some area problems?
How about some area problems? So we've talked so far about that we could do SOHCAHTOA for a right triangle, and here you have that too. I'll try to use the wrong pencil. And that we know area of a regular right triangle is 1/2 base times height. So we're going to develop where these other things come from, just for the sake of time in class today. But recognize if you have a non-right triangle, and you know, let's see, let's take a look at this. We've got an A, a B, and a sine of C. So if I'm drawing a triangle, and this is my C, where's my little a, my little b?
Well, it depends on where big A and big B
Okay,
are.
so I'll just assign big A and big B.
So they're the two sides adjacent to angle
Yeah,
C.
they're right next to it. So this would be a side angle side situation. So we want to memorize 1/2 AB sine C as half of the two sides we know times the sine of the angle in the middle of them. So
And we'll show you where this comes from as an exercise on our worksheets in class. But
we
for
will.
now,
We will. Just
how
trust
do,
us.
this is how you use it.
And it's so easy. Okay, one more thing to notice is I always try to write area here so I don't confuse angle A with A and all that stuff. So I just try to write area personally. Okay, so we're going to find the area of ABC. Again, we could draw a little picture. Okay, label your ABC. It doesn't really matter which is which. But we do know that A is 49 degrees. And we do know that C is 13 and B is 18. So we do have our side angle side, and we are allowed to use 1/2 of the two sides times the sine of the angle. So area is simply that. It is 1/2 times the two sides we know, the 13 times the 18, and then we've got the sine of the angle in the middle.
49 degrees.
49 degrees. Voila.
And if you multiply that all out, you get 88.301.
Now, there are no units here, so technically we could say units squared.
U squared.
Okay, but if there were units,
Unsquared?
obviously, well, I use UN, sorry. Units, I'll write units out.
You're fine.
Okay, so obviously if we had centimeters or inches or something like that, that would be squared. Okay,
That's
simple
it.
enough. Side angle side.
So we actually have two area formulas, though.
We do, because what if we don't have side angle side? Well, what if we are given side, side, side? That's a little trickier. Okay, again, we can talk about where this comes from in class. Okay, but we need to find this fancy-pantsy thing called the semi-perimeter first.
It's
which
really
is-
just half the perimeter.
It's really just half of it, because perimeter would be add up all the sides, okay? So we're gonna use half of the perimeter, and then we're gonna use this
And
area
this
formula.
is some guy Heron. There's a really cool way to prove this, but it just requires about 14 steps of some really cool algebra.
We'll show you the page in the book if you wanna see it. You know that thing you haven't used in a really long time, and you have to dig out to turn into us pretty soon? Yeah. So anyway, let's try an example, okay? Again, this is for side, side, side. So we've got Bob, and he's gonna sod a portion of a backyard, and it's roughly a triangle. Okay, maybe the grass didn't grow back in that part. And I will label the smallest side as 9, and what looks like the middle side, maybe that one, as 12, and this one as 15, just for visual, okay? And we wanna know how many square feet sod rolls he needs. So obviously we need the,
Square footage.
so
The area.
we need the area, okay? Before I can find the area, if I know side, 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 I need to find the semi-perimeter. Okay, so
So
let's come over here and find our semi-perimeter, which is going to be half of
9 plus 12 plus
9
15,
plus 12 plus 15.
which turns out to be a total of 18.
Woohoo! So half of that's 18. So now we're going to come over here and we're going to find our area formula, which is simply the square root.
Of S, which was 18.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was writing it down again.
Oh, we basically just do S times the length, S minus all the lengths.
Yep,
And then take the square root.
and then take the square root. Okay,
It's really
so
kind of a cool proof.
area is simply going to be the square root of
18
18.
times 18 minus 9, which is
18
9.
minus 9, which is 9. You can subtract in your head, it's fine.
18 minus 12 is 6.
Yep.
And 18 minus 15 is 3.
Ta-da. That's
Multiply that all together, take the square root, and you end up with, well, exactly 54 square feet.
it. That was convenient.
But does that really answer our question?
No, because this is the area now that Bob has to sod. And if he's filling it up with 4.5 square foot sod rolls, how many rolls does he need?
Well, we just need to know how many times 4.5 goes into 54.
Exactly. Which is, give all the answers.
12.
12. And if it wasn't 12, we would have to round up to the next whole roll because they won't let you buy a half a one.
Well, you could just walk out with it.
He did not just say that on
Okay,
recording.
all right.
We're going to
I'm
pretend
only
like that
kidding.
didn't happen. Okay, so he needs 12 rolls. So again, problem situation. So 2 area formulas, 1 law of cosines. That's it
And a
for 5,
partridge
6.
in a pear tree. Okay, here we go. We're done. See
We're
you
done.
later.
Bye.